Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Teguh Pangestu. I am from English Department and I'm study at Islamic State University of Raden Intan Lampung. I would like present my proposal under the title Improving Students' Writing Skill in the Context by Using Transition Action Detail Strategy of the 8th grade students of SMP Islam El Shihab academic year 2019 and 2020. Next, about Chapter 1, Background of the Problem. Writing is one of the four language skills that plays very important role in second language learning. Writing is important because the learners can express their ideas, feelings, and experience in certain place and situation in written form. Therefore, writing skill need to be taught the students. That fathers who teach the writing is essential feature of learning a language because it provides a very good means of focusing the vocabulary, spelling, and sentence pattern. Sutanto states, writing is a process of expressing idea or thought in words that should be done at our leisure. It can be very enjoyable as long as we have the ideas and the means to achieve it. It means writing is a complex skill because the writer needs skill on how to write words correctly, how to arrange those words into sentences which are supposed to be meaningful according to grammatical rules. Writing is not easy because it takes study and practice to develop this skill. There are four processes in writing such as planning, drafting, editing, and final version. According to Brown, that process of writing requires entirely different set of competence. Written products are often the result of thinking, drafting, and revising products that require specialized skill that not very speakers develop naturally. It means that pen is used to write, and the result of using pen is writing. By writing, the pupil will get some information. That is why human being needs to learn how to write correctly. Writing is language skill that is not used directly, no face to face with others. Writing is complex process. There are many aspects should be considered in writing, not only the grammatical and theoretical device, but also the content and context. According to Harris, there are 5 general components of writing. They are content, form, grammar, style, and mechanic. Therefore, many reasons suppose that the number of students writing difficult is even greater than the number experiencing difficulties in other skills. Meanwhile, not only students often found difficulties in writing, but teachers also got it. The teachers are also difficult to teach, which more or less affect the student learning outcomes and has a long process. It means that writing is complex skill because the people who want to write they must use eyes, brain, and hand. In doing preliminary research, the writer got students writing score at the 8th grade of SMP Islam El Shihab Bandar Lampung from the English teacher. The previous research was conducted by Anna Lestiana, the influence of using TID, Transition Action Detail Strategy towards student writing ability in descriptive text at the English grade of SMPN 2 Jati Agung, Lampung Selatan in academic year 2018 and 2019. She said that TID strategy could give a significant influence toward students' writing ability in descriptive text. Based on explanation of previous research above, it can be concluded that are significant difference of previous research to this research. The difference are in this previous research that had been done by Anna Lestiana that transition action detail TID strategy could improve student writing skill of procedure text. Transition action detail TID strategy could give significant in influence toward students' writing ability in descriptive text and translation action detail (TID). Strategy called improve student writing skill of narrative text. Meanwhile, in this research, the research will use translation action detail (TID) strategy to improve student writing skill, especially in student recount text. Based on the background above, the research will use translation action detail strategy in teaching English, especially to improve the student's writing skill. Therefore, the researchers entitled this research Improving Student in Recount Text by using translation action detail strategy of English grade student of SMP Islam El Shihab academic years of 2019 and 2020. Identification of problem. Based on the background of the problem, the researchers identifies the problem as follows. The students' writing skill in still low is still low. The students are difficult to organize the idea. The teacher is lack of using various strategies in teaching writing skill. Classroom atmosphere is not mutually participate in learning process. Limitation of problem. In this research is mainly focused on the effort to improve students' learning process in terms of enthusiasm, practice, and participation in writing learning process by using the translation action details (TID) to the A grade of SMP Islam El Shihab in academic years 2019 and 2020. Formulation of the problem based on the explanation of the English teaching and learning problems that have been mentioned in the identification of the problems, and based on the focus of the study, the problem is formulated as follows. What extent does translation action detail (TID) strategy improve writing skill recount text of the 8th grade students of SMP Islam El Shihab in the academic years 2019 and 2020? How is the process of implementing teaching skill using translation action detail (TID) strategy of to 8th grade students of SMP Islam El Shihab in the academic years 2019-2020? And so, objective of the research. From the formulation of the problem, the objective of this study is to improve student skill in writing recount text to the 8th grade student of SMP Islam El Shihab in the academic years of 2019 and 2020 by using translation action detail (TID) strategy. Use of the research. This research expects that there are some use of the research as follows. 1. For the students, it can help the student to know their strength and weakness in writing and will encourage them to improve their writing competence. They will also know to what extent they can understand the use of translation action detail (TID) strategy in recount text. They can study to write hard to prove that they can write better. Second, for the teacher, by translation action detail (TID) strategy, the teacher can use translation action detail (TID) strategy in teaching writing recount text. Next, scope of the research. The scopes of this research are as follows. Subject of the research. 1. Subject of the research. The subject of this research will be the English teachers and the students at the first semester of 8th grade at SMP Islam El Shihab in the academic years 2019 and 2020. The second, object of the research. The object of the research will be used translation action detail TID strategy to improving writing skill. The third, time to research. The research will be conducted at the first semester of the 8th grade in the academic years of 2019 and 2020. And the fourth, place of research. The research will be conducted in SMP Islam El Shihab. It located at the Pulau Nias, number 10 Street, Sukabumi, Bandar Lampung. Chapter 2, Review of Literature. Concept of teaching and learning English as a foreign language. Teaching English as foreign language means that English is taught by people which English is not their mother tongue or their native language. It is supported by Hammer. English as a foreign language is generally taken to apply to students who are studying general English at school and institute in their own country or as transitory visitors in target language country. According of the statement above, it means that English is international language, but in Indonesia, English as foreign language not be used to communicate in daily activity. As we know, in Indonesia, English is taught as the foreign language. As a foreign language, English is not used for daily communication. Setiadi states that in Indonesia, English is learned at school and people do not speak the language in the society. It means that in Indonesia, English is not used for communication in daily lives. Brown states teaching is showing or helping someone to learn how to do something, providing with knowledge and causing understand. It means that when we give an instruction to some about something, it is hoped that teaching English as foreign language activities, he or she will understand the subject that we taught. Furthermore, Hermer states that teaching means to give someone knowledge or to instruct or to train someone. Thus, by teaching or being a teacher, someone transfers knowledge, guides, and coaches other people in learning process. According the explanation above, the researchers concludes that teaching English as foreign language is teaching English in the school as a subject that used in many requirements, such as to read literature, technical works, to listen to the music and another, and teaching English as a foreign language is an action to give motivation to the student to improve their English skill, but it is not used for daily communication in Indonesia. The student who learn English as foreign language will get opportunities to communicate in their school and orally with the speakers of another nationality. And next, writing. Concept of writing. Another linguist, Highland, explained that writing is a way to share personal meaning. It means that writing is the way to express feeling and talk to other people that have meanings. Writing can help people to communication. Therefore, when constructing their views or ideas, the people have to make it understandable and acceptable. According to Hermer, writing is a way to product language and express idea, feeling, and opinion. Furthermore, he states that writing is process that what people write is often heavily included by the consign of genres, and then these elements have to be presented in learning activities. It means that writing is a way to produce language that comes from our thought. The idea, feeling, or opinion produced based on writer activity was done. It is also an activity both physically and mentally which help the writers put their thought into words in meaningful form. For all statements above, the research concludes that writing is one of skill in English to transfer idea, feeling, and thought of the writer's mind, which arranged in word, sentence, and paragraph using eyes, hand, and brain as information to the reader. Writing is a form of the student understanding about lesson that they have learned. From writing, the teacher can assist their students' knowledge and interpretation about the lesson. Second, characteristic of writing process. Process of writing is one of productive skill needs Hermer stated that writing process involves a series of steps to follow in producing a finished piece of writing. There are 4 elements. Number 1 is planning. Planning is the arrangement conducted to do something. The planning stage is important because at this stage lies the idea of the purpose of writing. This may involve making detailed notes. There are 3 columns that must be filled by participants, such as transition columns, action column, and detail column, and each column can be filled by several rows. After filled each rows and columns with sentence, the student can move the sentence that consists about transitional signal, sequence of event, and some detailed action into new context. Besides that, in Rizky Journal Transition Action Detail TID, strategy describes something as a sequence of events. First transition are short, phrase-like, then or in the beginning that help to introduce each new action in the sequence. Second action are the actual events or that thing that happened. List in order in which they occur. The last detail are conditional information about each action. It means short and even from a transition sentence like then to help introduce the action, then followed by the action of the event that occur, and ends with conditional information about each action. The transition action detail strategy is very useful opportunities to describe a sequence of events come up all the time. This strategy consists of 3 words. They are transition. The first transition. These are short words or phrases such as then or after, a while, or all of students that help to introduce each new action in the sequence. The student don't have to transition for each new action, but transition can help their writing follow more smoothly from section to section. It means that transitions are short phrases or to connect 2 or more actions or ideas. Number 2, actions. There are the actual event or thing that happen listed in the order in which they occur. And number 3, details. This additional information about each action. For each action can be provided probably 2 or 3 important questions that each student need to answer. These answers are the detail in it means that strategy will help the student to achieve the transition action and detail of recontext that will be used before they write a recontext. Number 2, produce of transition action detail TID strategy. PH states there are 6 steps of applying the transition action detail TID strategy. These are also can be applied in teaching recontext writing in the classroom. They are explained as follows. Number 1, fill in the first action box. To make recontext writing easier, students are guided to start with the first action box first. The first action box is to be filled with the first action of the story or the preface of how the story began. Number 2, fill in the last action box. After filling in the first action box, go straight to the last action box. This is need to be done so students can clearly show how story ends. And the first 2 steps are help the student to see the wide angle of their story before they go to specific detail. And number 3, fill in the middle of the sequence. The top and bottom action box are filled, and then it's time to fill the action between the beginning and the end of action box. It's all easier because the first 2 steps help the student to remind or create every event in between. And number 4, read over from the top to bottom of the action box. The action box are already filled. Then read over the sequence of action. Check whether the actions are already in correct chronological order. And the number 5, fill in the tile as last 2 per box. Actions are fulfilled and already put in a correct chronological order. Then go to the details box. Fill in the detail box with the detail or additional information about every action of the story. Put at the last 2 details for every action to serve a better understanding. Number 6, fill in the transition or optional. First of all, not every action needs a transition signal. Put the transition in story natural when it is needed to be attacked. Do not use the same transition over and over again because it would be boring to the reader. In truth, the best writing used to use no transitional phrase. Instead, students better use logic to move from one action to the next. And 3. Advantage of using transition action detail TID strategy. There are some advantage of using transition action detail TID strategy, namely TID A. TID is easy to do and efficiently help the student to cleaning their writing step by step. B. TID strategy can engage the student imagination to express their ideas in writing from easier. And C. TID strategy can help the student to construct and build their own ideas become a simple text. And D. This strategy can help the student to work together. Definition of recount text. According to Anderson, speaking or writing about past event is called recount. They further explain that a recount text is a text that retells past events, usually in the order in which they occurred. Its purpose is to provide the audience a description of what occurred and when it occurred. Furthermore, according to Derewianka, recount is a text that retells event or experience in the past which its purpose is either to inform or to entertain the audience. Recount is very similar narrative, so the thing that differentiates both of them is the schematic structure of the body paragraph. There is no complication among the participants in recount text. Instead, in recount text are explored the series of events which happen to the participants. However, it just focuses on the events themselves. The events will be told chronologically based on the time and place, while in narrative the body paragraph is complication which the story has the climax of problem and the story ended by solving the problem. It can be some that recount is a kind of text that retells about event or experience in the past chronologically based on the sequence of events. The purpose is to give the audience information or to entertain. Types of recount text. Derewianka explained that there are 5 types of recount text, namely A. Personal recount is retelling an event that the researcher was personally involved in, for example, personal experience, personal letter, diary, essays, journal, anecdote, and postcard. Personal recount is usually written in the first person, I and we, and often to entertain and to inform. B. Factual recount is concerned with recalling events accurately. Imaginative or literary recounts entertain the reader by recreating the events of an imaginary world as though they are real, such as fiction. And D. Procedural recounts record the steps taken in completing a task or procedures. Example include a flow chart of the action required for making bread and the steps to solve a mathematical problem. And E. A biographical recounts tell the story of a person's life using the third-person narrator, he, she, and they. In this case of autobiography, first-person narration, I, we, is used. Chapter 3. Research Methodology. Research A. Research Design. In this research, the research will use collaborative action research. Harmer-State action research is the name which is given to series procedures teachers can engage in, either because they wish to improve aspects of their teaching or because they wish to evaluate the success of certain activities and procedures. It means that action research is a systematic research that done by researchers to solve problems is in order to get a better improvement. In this research, the researchers aim to overcome the problem of teaching and learning process in the class, especially in writing skill. Collaborative action research has the capacity to initiate and enhance teacher research skill as a natural extension of teaching practice. Collaborative action research builds professional learning community with other teachers. In professions generally characterized by practitioner isolation, the research process empowers teachers by reaffirming their professional judgment and enable them to take steps to make reflection on practice a regular part of everyday teaching. The important aspect in observation are sources of data. The instrument will be used in collecting the data and strategy for data collection. When observing, the observers make the note in the classroom. Then, the collaborator observes the situation, student response, and researchers' performance during the implementing the actions. C. Reflections. The researchers and the English teacher who play a role as observers and collaborator analyze and evaluate learning process in cycle 1. Reflecting phase will the last phase in the cycle. The aims of this phase were to reflect the data from the implementation of the action and to know whether the action will successful or not by appropriating the result of the first cycle with stativity point reaching by criteria of success of so will not by the next cycle. Meanwhile, if the result of the action does not reach the criteria of success, so the next cycle needs to be done. It should move to the next cycle regarding, replanning, reacting, and reobserving. D. Technique of data analyzing. After collecting the data, the next step of this research will be analyze the data. The data will be analyzed by qualitative and quantitative data analysis. The first, qualitative data. Qualitative research will focus on understanding social phenomena and providing rich verbal description of settings. The first, qualitative data. Qualitative research will focus on understanding social phenomena and providing rich verbal description of setting, situation, and participants. The qualitative approach includes a number of different methods such as ethnographic, case study, naturalistic observation, focus interviews, and historical studies. The analysis qualitative data used to measure data from observation and interview, analyzing data related to the students' writing skill. In this research, the researchers gathering some documents that are analyzed to get the data. The data collection include of some stage. Observation. In this stage, a researcher has to observe all events or activities during research. The researchers observes the situation in the class during lessons, response, and attitude of students when they give explanation, doing tests, and knowing their difficulties. This observation was very important for making analyzing on everything that happened in classroom during implementing the free writing activity. B. Interview. The research choose an interview in informal setting and it are conducted before the free test, before and after implement the cycle I, then before and after implement the cycle 2. The interview was unconstructed and it will allow the direction of the interview to be determined by the students. These kinds of interview will actually the most demand. The data from interview are in the form of interview transcript. The interview will need in order to know the teachers and students' opinion toward the problem in the writing and implementation of strategy. The student response and feeling after information. The researchers will did an interview to a student in the end of lesson or made a chat with the student another day. Okay, maybe enough. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.